Hello, welcome. I'm Bones, I talk about comics, and today we're going to be talking about how to resolve a comic with multiple plot lines, how to bring them all together. And I got this question while I was streaming last night. I was a little bit loopy, so I thought I would sit down and think out a nice proper answer to it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Remember to like the video and subscribe if you're into this kind of thing. Sorry I have to say this so early on in the video before you get to make up your mind, but you know, like the video, it's important. Anyways, ending your comic, ending a story, multiple plot lines. The most important thing to do with multiple plot lines is to bring them together, and obviously that's not very helpful. You can bring them together in multiple ways. You can bring them together in terms of like tension and intensity. Not everything is going to happen on the same set, but if it's in a matching level of intensity and a matching relation to each other, then they feel connected, even if they're not necessarily connected. You can bring them together thematically, which is important. The end of your story tends to be a climax of your theme, an answer to a question posed by your theme. So it's going to be multiple answers and questions coming together when it comes to theme, and the answers will be unfolding together. So just in terms of theme, you're going to have counterpoints and points to how your ending plays out. Logistically, you can also bring characters back together, bring them close together, and just overall, it's about bringing things together. It's finding points where things line up and then juxtaposing them. And to do this, you need to either be thinking about it from the beginning, or you need to go back and edit your story to bring things together. It has to be a very conscious effort. Sometimes you subconsciously will bring things together, but you have to be very conscious while you're writing your story from beginning to end that you are bringing things in this direction. I find it very hard to, at the last minute, change the course of a ship. So if we're talking about an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot, you can think of that as like very large ships, right? It's going to be very difficult to, at the last minute, adjust course and bring everything together. So you need to be thinking about it from the beginning and be heading in that direction where everything will coalesce. You need to figure out those points of reunion and union and be working towards those rather than just hoping that things line up or at the last minute trying to bring them together. And if you do that, where you bring everything at the last minute together, what you are then required to do is to go back into your editing process and rewrite the endings so that they do come together, or like change things so that stuff, plot points, etc. line up together. While I was talking about this on stream, y'all were talking about the lace plotting method. I'm so glad you guys love lace. Lace being the 4 different types of plots. But I don't think it necessarily matters which type of plots you're bringing together. They just need to come together. If you are aware of what lace is or not, you can bring your plots together. I don't always think about what type of stories are coming together. I just make sure they all come together. And if you want things to come up satisfying, a lot of what endings are the middle, okay? Endings are great, but they don't exist in a vacuum. It's fun to go back and watch your favorite stories and rewatch the endings over and over again. I have been known to do this with Avatar: The Last Airbender specifically, but it's not the ending that makes the story good. The ending is built on a foundation of many other things. So studying endings is good, but the ending obviously is just the culmination. It's like definitionally the culmination of everything that came before it. So if you want your stories to come together, like, you need to be thinking about it from the beginning, which is, I guess, what I'm going to be repeating throughout this video. In the case of stories where everything's very far apart, everything's very spread out, very disparate, you have a whole bunch of storylines that your reader might not necessarily understand how they come together, which I love. Bringing those together, you're not going to come up with a random solution to this. You have to have it planned, whether or not they actually show up together or not. But in the case of 9 Point, my comic, there are 3 or 4 main characters, 3 main plotline characters that exist in very different settings. There's Mitzi, who is a knight, a kitten training to be a knight. Then we have a kitten that's growing up with raccoons, who is a male calico. And then we have the princess, who is a white cat, who is growing up in the Temple of White. And they're very spread out. And I don't know if this is spoilers, but they aren't going to all team up immediately, and I think there's some expectation for them to do so just because they're in the same story together, and I think there is some amount of expectation that plots will end up interacting with one another, and they do, but it's in very big waves. And more so, I try and keep the plot in action to follow one another, and also to keep things thematically similar and keep everything under the same like umbrella of theme, world, whatever. They all have their own little plots that are going on. A lot of 9 Point, the big question is how people are going to ever find each other and meet up. So that's not something I want to do at the very beginning, and without a lot of like effort from the characters. Like, you really got to be thinking about this stuff. It can be even more difficult if you're talking about a story where part of the mystery is you don't know how the different plots line up. That's really the case with Crow's Story, which isn't out yet, unfortunately, so I don't really get to refer to it. But Crow's Story has 2 main portions, and one portion is a bunch of like little animals in a kind of Warrior Cats inspired world going on. So there's like a flock of crows that are living in this world where like there's all these floating islands, and there's a big like abyss beneath the ground. And then there's like the other side of the story where there's just all these elves like chilling in like a normal kind of fantasy world, and I don't give out the answer as to how these line up immediately, and that in and of itself is sort of like a plot, sort of like an intrigue point, the wonder of like how these characters will come together. And you can write a story where nothing comes together, but like eventually something is going to overlap. There has to be some sort of overlap, or otherwise like these are just like if you're writing a bunch of stories that don't overlap at all, whether that's like thematically or like physically or like otherwise, then like you're dealing with like a weird anthology, which I guess could be interesting in its own right, but you probably want there to be overlap at the very least in theme. And yeah, that would be my advice on that one. Thank you so much for the question. It's very helpful. And thank you so much for watching. How are you guys handling writing the endings of your stories? Do you struggle bringing things together, or have you never even considered your ending yet? Maybe you should, because your ending is very important to your story. It dictates a lot, as I was saying. We have this stream, not this week, but next week will be our commission stream where you can get art done, and hopefully we can raise the money for our dog's tooth surgery. Like I said at the very beginning of the video, if you weren't sold on it yet, please like the video and hit the subscribe button, because it's very helpful to me as a YouTube creator. And, you know, I do daily videos for y'all, but I also do it for the game, you know, for the YouTube game. So please, thank you. I'll see you guys in the next one.